Hey guys, Andrew Hutchinson here, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my story about how I came to work in a public library in the first place, because I had never intended to. So, when I went to college, my bachelor's degree was actually in history from the University of Arizona down in Tucson, go Wildcats. And then I got a master's degree in secondary education from Arizona State University in Tempe, which, if you don't know, those are huge rivals. So I was a little bit of a traitor, but I wanted to move up into the Phoenix area because I'd always wanted to live there. I had been born there and had moved away as a child, but I had since been able to come back. And I got a job in Southern Phoenix teaching seventh grade US history, and I absolutely loved it. I spent 3 amazing years as an educator, and like I've mentioned in my intro video, I do plan on creating another channel talking all about what I learned in being a teacher. But when I eventually got married in March of 2018, my husband and I wanted to get out of the city, move to a bit of a quieter location, and we had both spent some times in our childhoods up in Southwest Colorado, and so we thought it was a perfect place to begin our new life together. So we bought a property up here, we moved here, and when we got here in the summer of 2018, I had thought about going into teaching again locally. I just didn't know where. And in the meantime, the education system in this country is a little bit wonky. And so even though I was a certified teacher in Arizona, I had to be recertified in Colorado before I could teach. And also the curriculum for each grade level is different than in Arizona. So in Arizona, teaching seventh grade history is completely different than teaching seventh grade history here. And so I would have had to learn a whole new curriculum and kind of start from scratch, which I had no problem doing. But the more I kept checking into local job listings, I could not find anything in terms of history for teaching at that time. And so I thought, well, I like to work and I still want to make some money, so what are my options? I ended up going in to just work on my own time at a local coffee shop. And I had mentioned to the owners there that I used to work in Starbucks at college. And so one day they came over and offered me a part-time job. And so I started working there to make some extra cash, which is great. But I still wanted to do something a little different. So I was preparing to become a substitute teacher. But even then, it's not something you can super depend on. You might be booked every day for 1 week and then not get any bookings for a while. So I was mulling around what other type of job I could search for that was part-time. And funny enough, my husband said, "You love libraries. You always go to libraries. The first day we moved here, you went and got a new library card. Why don't you go down to the local library and see what they have?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, why didn't I even think of that before?" So I went to my town's library and I met with their director just to introduce myself. And we had a really great conversation. And she said, "I would absolutely love to hire you, but I don't have anything at the moment. However, I think there's another library about 15 minutes away, and I've heard that they might have a position." And I said, "Okay, great." So I called that particular library, and someone who is now my coworker answered the phone. And I said, "Hi, do you have any job openings right now?" And he said, "Nope," and just almost basically hung up on me. And I went, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Can I at least get transferred to talk to your director? I would still like to, come in and introduce myself." I still kind of give him grief over that. So he said, "Absolutely." So he sent me the director. I talked to her. It was a Friday, and she said, "How about you come in Monday and meet with me? I absolutely would love to at least get to talk to you." And I said, "That'd be great." Well, funny enough, that very weekend, my in-laws, who also live up in this area, they have a fun hobby of going around and making and selling kettle corn at local fairs. So they were out selling kettle corn, and a woman walked up to them and she mentioned, "Oh, I'm in charge of a library nearby." And they said, "Oh, I think our son-in-law is coming to meet with you." And she said, "Absolutely." And so they had a really great conversation. And they came back and told me she really liked her kettle corn. So I thought that was a good sign. So when I went in Monday to meet with her, she'd already met my in-laws, and I didn't feel nervous at all. And it wasn't really an interview, it was more of just a meeting because I didn't know what they had at the time. So we ended up talking for about 2 hours, and I just told her all about my background and if I got hired, what I maybe would love to do at a library. She asked me all sorts of questions, and then she said, "You know what? I think I can make something work. Let me talk to my board, let me look at my budget, and I'll call you in a couple of days." I said, "Great." So a couple days went by, and then a couple more days went by. I kept waiting for the phone to ring, and nothing was happening. And then I was at my coffee shop job on Friday, and I loved working there, but it was just a rough day. We had so many customers, and I think I had a couple rude people come in, and I was cleaning dishes, and I was covered in coffee, and I was covered in food particles, and my back hurt. And I went, it would be great if I had this job, but also it would be also really nice to work in a library. And funny enough, right then my director called and she said, I can offer you a part-time for right now. And I said, that's perfect. I will absolutely take it. So I started splitting my time between the library and the coffee shop, and I loved both. And at the library, I started learning so much. And then, funny enough, about 2 weeks later, a full-time person got a different job. It was their dream job, and so she ended up leaving. So my director came to me and said, hey, looks like I can have you go full-time sooner rather than later. And so I immediately got bumped up to full-time there. And I started getting more responsibilities. I got put in charge of redoing a lot of our website. I started doing more event planning, program planning, which is now more of my job now that I have the title of adult services position, which I'm going to, in my next video, talk a lot about what I do in terms of how I plan library programs and give some tips and advice on what I've learned about how to do that. And I've been doing that now for 1.5 years, and I absolutely love it. I love my director, I love my coworkers, I absolutely love the library I work in, and so everything kind of worked out the way it was supposed to, I think. And though I do miss working in a classroom and being a teacher, there's so many perks right now to the job that I have. I have far less stress. I do make a little bit more money. And so for where I'm at in my life, I really love working at a library. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to create this channel, to share the passion that I found in doing library work, and also to share what I've learned along the way, as well as eventually share what I learned as an educator as well. I would never say never about returning to the classroom, but also I'm in a really good place where I am right now working at a library. So in the comments, I'd love to hear how maybe if you have a library story, whether you're just a patron who goes to one all the time, or whether maybe you have worked at one or you still work at one. But my story is pretty interesting in just how I kind of fell into it without even thinking that's what I was going to do, but how I've just found it such a rewarding place. And if any of you out there are thinking about working at a library, I highly recommend it. I think you will not regret it. So I hope you got something out of this video, and it was a fun story for me to tell. And until then, I will see you later. Bye.